Welcome back to RealDealCast, where we explore the intersection of technology, AI, and real estate. Today, we're excited to host Dr. Noah St. John, visionary in personal development and AI integration. Known for his groundbreaking Affirmations method, Dr. St. John has been in the forefront of helping real estate investors and entrepreneurs harness the power of AI to break through barriers and achieve unprecedented success. By the end of the episode, you'll learn how to leverage AI to enhance your real estate ventures, understand the critical human AI gap, and discover strategies to eliminate friction in your business. Whether you're a tech savvy investor or just curious about the future of AI in real estate, this episode is packed with insights you won't want to miss. Let's dive in. Dr. Noah St. John joins me here again. You can find him at noahstjohn.com. I'm going to have that as a clickable link in the show notes. Really appreciate you coming back again, sir.
Great to be back, Jack.
So, well, let's start things off. Since we've chatted, you've written a children's book. And
Yes.
how to ask better questions? I ask better questions?
It's called
what was it?
I Ask Better Questions. And you can go to iaskbetterquestions.com, learn more about it. But yeah, it's a children's book teaching my Afformations method that I've been teaching for 30 years to, of course, over 3 million adults around the world. But a lot of those adults have been begging me for a children's book for years. And so my wife and I actually decided to write this book. And it's for kids, but we are getting amazing reviews on our Amazon page, and literally from people who don't even have kids. And they say they bought it for themselves and they love it. So whether you're a parent, a grandparent, aunts, uncles, it's for anybody who wants to learn to ask better questions. So yeah, that's what it's for.
Well, I can see that. It seems like as I've matured, I kind of want things kind of boiled down to the simplest method and the simplest message. So it makes sense that adults are picking it up for themselves too.
Yes, exactly. Well, you're right. And that's a really great point, because my Afformations method is very simple, but it's incredibly powerful. And so we used it in the book. We have 5 kids who learn my Afformations method to help them with different situations. For example, making friends, overcoming test anxiety, bullying, and things like that. So these are universal subjects, universal topics that anyone can relate to of any age, but of course for kids too. So really, our mission with this book is to help the next generation so that they can ask better questions, meaning empowering questions rather than disempowering questions, which most of us were raised with, sadly. So really it's about helping the next generation, but of course, helping us old folks too.
Yeah. No, this is kind of neat. I was going to ask you how you came about this. Like, you mentioned it, people were asking for it, but is there anybody in your life that you wanted to benefit and pass down this wisdom?
Well, my wife, Babette, has been literally bugging me for a couple of years now to write this book. And I had all these other projects going on. So I said, oh, we'll get to it, honey. And finally, my deck was cleared. And I said, all right, let's do it. And we were able to write it and actually create really marvelous illustrations that also people are really loving in the reviews. And so really it's really to help as many kids, but also, by the way, when you go to the website, when you go to iaskbetterquestions.com, it's easy to remember, you'll see that we also have resources for parents and teachers. So what's happening is teachers are reading the book to their students, in their classrooms. And we have these educator guides and lesson plans, because the one thing that every teacher wants is a lesson plan. And so I created that for you, for all the teachers listening, and you can just download it. It's free. And then for the parents, we have like posters that you can print out and share with your kids, and also just how to use the book with your kids. So it's really more than a book. It's a movement. And that's what we're really excited about.
Yeah. Last time we talked about head trash and income ceilings. I was going to ask, how important is it to get in front of this at a young age? And have you seen any direct outcomes already? I mean, this is a relatively new book, but maybe you have stories of somebody in your past that...
Oh, yeah. We have so many stories, and another reason why we wanted to release this book. But yeah, of course, I've been teaching my Afformations method for 30 years now, and, to millions of people all around the world, CEOs, leads, celebrities, adults, kids, people from all walks of life. And one of the main things that I've heard when let's say I'm doing a keynote presentation or a leadership retreat, for a company or team or organization, I'll always invariably have people come up to me after my presentation or my talk, and they'll say to me, "Noah, this should be taught in every classroom in America, every school in the world." I'm like, "Exactly, yes, it should." So now we finally have these tools, these resources that people can actually do that. So one example is there is a teacher who I met years ago, and he shared my affirmations method with his classroom. And these were kids that were, let's just say, getting left behind. They really were being overlooked. And so this teacher, shared my affirmations method with the class, and they started to just do so much better on their scholastic tests, getting better grades. And I think even more importantly, their self-confidence. And so many of them went on to go to college when they really thought they would never go to college. And so just really great stories and examples like that. And so we're really excited about it.
I was going to ask you a little bit too about real estate investing, because you've
Absolutely.
helped so many businesses across various industries get through a lot of this. Have you happened to see any particular trend when it comes to real estate investors regarding self-sabotage, or we're just kind of part of the regular mix? We always like to think that we're unique in some way.
Well, let me put it this way, Jack. I fix a human problem, and I've been fixing this human problem for decades now. And last time I checked, many, if not most, real estate investors are humans. Most of them. Anyway, my point being is that what I do is I come at this from the inner game and outer game perspective, putting those two things together. So for the folks listening to this program, you're a real estate investor, right? You probably spent lots of time, money, and effort on how to do real estate investing, which is what I call the outer game. Now, that's very important. It's crucial. You have to know how to do these things, right? If you want to make money from real estate, you need to know how to do it. The problem is that those programs ignore the inner component, the inner game, as I call it. And what I've noticed in my dealings and, coaching, 10,000 entrepreneurs, CEOs, athletes, celebrities over the last 30 years is that 90% of success really is your inner game. Okay, so you're utilizing the smallest part of success when you're only focused on the outer game. Let me give you a quick example of this. I was speaking at a real estate conference in Phoenix a few years ago, and a man came up to me. His name is Bill, and he was doing well in his business, doing about 6 figures, but he was just stuck at that, as I call it, the revenue ceiling, right? Like we talked about. And he said, no matter what I've tried, and he said, I've tried everything and I spent tons of money. And he said, no, what makes this any different? And he was expecting like me to give him a big sales pitch. Well, he had just been listening to me speak for like an hour. And I said to him, well, I don't know, Bill, what do you think? What do you think makes this different? He goes, well, you're really coming at it from a different perspective. You're coming at it from the inner game. And so he just started to repeat everything I just said. And I said, well, it sounds like it's different. What do you think? You want to? So he goes, yeah, let's do it. So he decided to sign up. He decided to join me and have me coach him. Long story short, in a very, very short amount of time, he started doing, multi-million-dollar deals and then multi-billion-dollar deals with a B. And you can go to the website and you can see his video along with, hundreds of others of case studies. So real estate is really interesting. To your question, it really, really does show up a lot in real estate. In fact, I would argue that real estate is one of the top 3 categories that I've helped people make the most money in. Another quick example, I was speaking at another real estate conference in New Orleans. And a guy came up to me, his name is Brian, and he decided to sign up. He he just threw his credit card at me and said, let's do this. He's all excited. And so he was in Boston when I started to coach him. And again, doing well, 6 figures, but couldn't break through. So I coached him. We went through my process, which we call the power habit system, getting rid of the head trash, taking his foot off the brake. And within 12 days, he told me that he was able to do something he'd never done before, which was he closed $95,000 in commissions in 12 days, not weeks, not months, 12 days. And now he also used my methodology to lose weight because he had been trying to lose weight. He lost 30 pounds, kept it off all these years. And now he has his business and he lives in Aruba. So from Boston to Aruba, you're welcome. So those are just a few examples.
Yeah. As you were talking there, it just occurred to me, that you had asked that person to reiterate what he thought made you different. I mean, that's likely one of the strongest sales tactics that I've ever experienced is when
Right.
I've done that when I buy a number of distressed homes, and I usually try to get into the position of having them convince me of why I should buy their house. I mean,
Exactly.
I just thought that was interesting that in the
Yeah.
end it's almost a sales tactic.
Well, absolutely, because we're all used to this, right? We're all used to the hard sell and the, which this becomes this. It just becomes you're butting heads and you're trying to convince someone of something that they don't really want to be convinced of. I'm sure we've all heard the phrase, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still, right? Meaning you can't really change anybody's mind. You can't. But if you allow them to change their mind, now keep in mind, I had just done my presentation. So, I'd been speaking for an hour and showing my methodologies and in the short amount of time that we had, he saw that it was different, so he was expecting that sales pitch, that convincing, and I just what I did was I just went and I let him do it. So it was really awesome. And so of course, to get to that point, for everyone listening, you're like, well, sure, it sounds easy. Well, it is easy when you've done the work, when you've made your case, when you've presented it in a way. So Jack, to use your example, I'm obviously that's what you're doing. You're showing all the reasons why, and then you're saying, so, well, what do you think? What would you like to do? You
Mhm.
know, I learned that from Sandler years ago, right? That's the best closing you could ever do. What do you want to do now? Best
Right.
closing ever.
What I also thought was interesting, you do a lot of work with AI, and
Mhm.
we're going to get into that here because we can nerd out on that all afternoon.
Definitely.
But what struck me and resonated with me was your book is called I Ask Better Questions.
Yes.
And that is actually a skill that I think a lot of people are missing when working with AI. They actually they're still treating it like a Google search engine, and it's
That's
not.
right.
To get everything out of it, I have learned that you do have to ask better questions.
Precisely. Well, you're absolutely right. And this goes back to Computing 101. Computing 101 on page 1 is one very, very simple phrase, and that is garbage in, garbage out. Gigo, garbage in, garbage out. And see, the point of that is most people are asking lousy questions, or to use AI language, prompts, right? We've all heard of prompts and prompt engineering. So a great example of that would be write me a blog post. Good luck with that, right? I mean, you just told them nothing. You didn't say anything, right? So it's like, and I mean, of course, if you're looking with Chat GPT, Claude, Perplexity, Grok, Gemini, they're going to basically say, what would you like the blog post to be about?
Mhm.
In parentheses, dumb. They won't say that, but you get my point. Like,
Right.
duh. What do you want to talk about? And so that's the point. But yet, that's what I was saying. Write me an email. Okay. What do you want to talk about? What are we doing here? So yeah, so garbage in, garbage out. So the point of that is what's beauty about that is that the reverse is true. The reverse is true. So if it's garbage in, garbage out, you put great stuff in, you're going to get great stuff out. Now keep in mind, and this is something I tell my clients all the time. AI is basically a smart 7-year-old. That's pretty much what it is. It's a liar. It's hallucinating all the time. I mean, that's why we've seen AI hallucinations, AI slop. Those things exist, right? Because AI, and see, this is funny because AI isn't really intelligent. It's called artificial intelligence. Not really. No. What it is a synthesizer. That's all it is. It just, take ChatGPT as an example. It scours the internet. You ask a question, hey, show me all the flights going from Cleveland to Hawaii. Okay, it'll do that. But what is it doing? It's just scouring the internet. Or if you're saying, write me a blog post, about personal development. Okay. And then even that's not good at all. That's a terrible prompt. You see what I mean? So, but it's just going to scour the internet and say, and it's going to hallucinate. It's just going to make stuff up. So that's why I call it a smart 7-year-old, because it's lies all the time. Did you take that cookie? No, I didn't take the cookie. Well, there's no one else around. Oh yeah, I took the cookie. Geez, really? So it does that all. I mean, and I swear to God, I have conversations with these guys. And I mean, I'm literally saying, why did you do that? Why did you make that up? Well, sorry, my bad. Why didn't you do it right in the first place?
Mhm.
So again, the point of all that was, I tell my clients all the time, look, you're the human. You're the human. You have to make the final decision. And it says right there in all this fine print, Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatever, is an AI and can make mistakes. No kidding. But you're the human, so you got to be the one in charge.
Yeah, one of the other things that I've learned, and it honestly is starting to bug the heck out of me, is the I'd call it sycophants that has It's just we're talking about affirmations,
Mhm.
but it's always telling you, great idea. I had to go to the point of starting to tell it, stop doing that. Like,
Yes,
I need direct answers. I
that's
can't,
right.
I don't want to hear that.
That's
And
right.
unless you tell it to stop, it'll just keep
Oh,
affirming everything
absolutely.
you throw at it.
That's right. So another great prompt for everyone listening that I use all the time is, let's say I tell it to, again, using a bad example, write a blog post about personal development. That's a terrible example, but it's, you see my point. All right. So then it'll go blah, 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 and then I'll say, why does this suck? That's the prompt. Why does this suck? And what's really great about that is it will tell you why it sucks. Okay. Like, for example, like the part about this is wrong, or this doesn't make any sense, or whatever. And I'll go, great, now fix that. You see? So that way I don't even have to tell it why it sucks. You tell me why it sucks. And it actually is pretty good about that. So I use that all the time. Why does this suck? And it goes, and it'll say, blah, 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 blah. Again, my point is, well, why didn't you make it not suck the first time?
Yeah.
Why are you wasting my time here? Time is money, guys. What are you doing? And also, guess what? Of course, they do that to take your credits, right? And then they go, oh, sorry, we're done. I was just getting into it. Why did you stop? You really need that $100, huh? Jeez. Anyway, so yeah, but what I'm also doing is I use one against the other. By the way, we're talking about prompting and stuff like that, but as I'm sure most people listening know, the five main LLMs, right, are ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, Gemini, Perplexity. So those are the big five. So the point is that as a business owner, as a real estate investor, you need to be cited by these LLMs. Otherwise, you're invisible. So that's why my team and I created something called ClickPulse AI. So if you just go to clickpulse.ai, we will get you cited. It's a do-it-yourself platform to actually write these types of articles, right? So that you don't have to make it suck. And in fact, it will also give you the emails that I'm talking about, the social media posts, LinkedIn, Instagram, and you just put in one sentence and it spits it all out for you. So my team has done an incredible job on this. I don't take the credit for it. It really is the tech team that did an amazing job. So that's ClickPulse AI. Now, why is that important? Because as I just said, if you're not being cited by the LLMs, you're invisible. So for example, people are going to type in, who's the best, real estate broker in New Orleans? Who's the best real estate agent in Dallas? People are typing in these things. Yes, they're going to Google, but they're also going to ChatGPT and the other ones that I mentioned. So if you're not there, you're invisible. All right. So the point is, you need to become AI visible. This is the new Google. This is the Google for, this new decade. This is exactly like it was in the 90s with Google. In the 90s, I was number one on Google all over the place just because I had a website. Well, guess what? Those days, of course, are long gone. Now a click costs $20 or whatever, depending on what industry you're in. So this is the new frontier of that. So again, I will reiterate, clickpulse.ai, and that you literally just put in a sentence and it does it for you. So it's way, 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 way easier than using ChatGPT to try to write these articles for ChatGPT. It's ironic, but that's what you need in order to get AI visible.
Well, we've already demonstrated why a service like what you're offering is going to be superior. These tools will just kind of pick a direction and blindly run in that
That's
direction.
right.
It unless you know how to do some proper prompt engineering and foresight.
Yes.
I was telling, like, I've been doing a lot of agentic engineering lately, and
Yeah.
I can't tell you how much project management is associated with making sure it gets a good result, because
Yes.
a lot of people are just throwing spaghetti on a wall and hoping it
Yes.
sticks, and it will, like you said, burn through tokens like you can't believe.
Yeah. Yes. And that time is money and tokens are money. So that really annoys me. So that's really, again, one of the reasons my team and I built ClickPulse AI for that exact reason, because we were trying to get these good LLM cited articles using the LLMs and they just weren't coming out very well. It's like, you would think it would work, but it just doesn't work very well. So that's why my tech team did an incredible job. And you literally just put in one sentence, and you can write something like, give me a blog post about personal development. But what's really great is you put in your brand settings. See, that's another thing with the LLMs. They hallucinate a lot. And so you have to keep telling them who you are and so on and so on. Now they're getting better at this, but still, you just type it in one time and it shows your brand settings, your website, and it will understand how you speak. In fact, you could even tell it, well, I want a professional tone. I want a humorous tone. I want a warm tone. You can choose all that. So it's very, very powerful. And the point is, you can be spending hours and hours and hours and hours writing this content and still not get cited because you're feeding it the wrong information or the wrong prompts or just the wrong words. So we've moved away from keyword searches. Now we're into prompt searches. That's what ChatGPT and the others are doing now. And by the way, of course, as we all know, ChatGPT, and there's no question they will all do this, are going to start doing ads, right? We saw that at the Super Bowl, right? Anthropic started making fun of ChatGPT for doing ads. I'm like, dude, you're going to be doing ads soon. So that is not a hill you want to die on, but they did. I'm like, okay, good luck, because they're doing ads. Now, the only one that probably won't is Gemini. Gemini probably won't need to do ads because it's owned by Google. Google owns the internet. They own all the data. So and of course, I say that with, an enormous asterisk, but my strong feeling, having been studying this and on the cutting edge here for these last few years, I don't see them doing ads because they don't need to. So, but nevertheless, you still need to be cited by the LLM. So this is the new SEO. It's called AEO, which is Answer Engine Optimization. And that's what ClickPulse AI enables you to do without spending hours writing all this stuff.
Well, this is one of those things you're preaching to the choir on this. Thankfully, I kind of tried to get in front of this as well. That, in fact, I've had podcast guests come on saying when they did a search for themselves, my podcast, their appearance on my show was what was cited. So I've been trying to get in front of this years ago. So that it seems like it's paying off.
Yes. Excellent.
Well, just to remind everybody, we're talking to Dr. Noah St. John. You can learn more by going to noahstjohn.com, clickable link in the show notes. But check out that children's book, iaskbetterquestions.com. That's going to have a clickable link in the show notes as well. And if you found some value in what we're chatting about so far, do us a favor, share this with one of your friends. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe. So my next question is regarding your affirmations and how you have seen people use AI to reinforce that mindset, reinforce some sort of coaching, reinforce that side of the business.
Well, I talk about, when you go to noahstjohn.com, I wrote a new executive briefing called The Human AI Gap. The Human AI Gap. Now, this is a gap that, frankly, most business owners, real estate investors, they don't even realize it exists yet. So talk about being on the cutting edge of this. The point is that you have people who understand AI over here and then everyone else over here. And the digital divide is getting wider and wider and wider, right? So the point is, I've heard it said, and I'm sure probably most people have heard it said at this point, that you're not really going to be replaced by AI, but you will be replaced by someone who knows how to use AI. And that's really true. So that's just part of the human AI gap. So most people right now, whether you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, real estate investor, or you're an employee, if you're working for a company, you are certainly concerned, if not worried, about AI. So the entrepreneur business owner is worried about AI in the sense that they're worried, well, can AI just replace me? And of course, the employees worry about the very same thing. Is AI going to replace me? Now, according to statistics, 491 people today lost their jobs to AI. Another 491 tomorrow and the day after and the day after. And that number is certainly just going to go up and up forever. It will not go away. And so the point is that when I look at the human AI gap, that's one of the things that I'm helping both entrepreneurs and businesses teams to bridge the human AI gap. So the point is that AI is a technology. It's just a tool. It's exactly like the internet was back in the 90s, right? If you remember back that long, that's how long I've been online. I started in 1997, started my company, successclinic.com, in a 300 square foot basement apartment with $800 in a book on HTML. So I had nothing, I had no business experience, no sales, marketing, nothing. I just had a vision, a dream, to help people. And so I had to embrace this new technology called the internet. What the heck is that? Well, of course, now, all these years later, we all know what the internet is. We're all on the internet. So that's why the AI revolution, this is the second revolution, and it's 1,000 times faster than the internet revolution. Okay, so that's why we're just seeing the implementation of this 1,000 times faster for that very reason, because we're all used to this technology at this point. So the crucial thing for everyone listening is, how are you going to bridge that human AI gap? You must become the person who understands what AI is, and you have to understand it beyond simple prompt engineering, writing the right prompts. Yes, that's important. You got to do it. That's 101. But we need to get to the 201, 301, 401 level if you're really going to be able to survive and thrive through this revolution.
Yeah, I've been trying to tell people too is that I've just run into a lot of people that think that they can throw AI at whatever problem and it's going to solve it. I've been this is that going back to your junk in, junk out. It's only actually going to amplify what you're capable of. So if you're lousy at something, it's going to be increasingly lousy at something. It's just going to, as much as it can better the situation, it actually can make it worse unless you know what you're doing.
Well, I'm sure we've all heard those stories of, not just kids, but adults that ChatGPT and others, gave really bad advice to. And, in many cases, they end up taking their own lives, which is absolutely terrible. To your point, that means they already started by asking really bad questions, how to, I don't want to say those things, but you get my point. So the point is that, yes, you have to, and that's why, for me, so as an example, I'm a coach, I'm a mentor, I'm a keynote speaker, I do executive retreats, I do keynote speeches, I do coaching, one-on-one, group coaching. So I don't feel nervous at all because the truth is that people are always going to want that human interaction. And there's no question that people actually want it more now, right? Because of AI. They want more hand-holding. They want more guidance. They want more support, more talking like we're doing right now. So that part isn't going away. So for you as a real estate investor, what does that mean for you? Well, you are the human. You make the choices. You have the choice. And AI can't, at this point anyway, can't decide what questions it's going to ask itself. You're the human asking the questions. So you're the one in charge. Now, we may get to that point where that isn't true. Sam Altman from OpenAI was asked the question, what do you think the odds are that, AI robots will just take over the world? He said, well, probably about 10, 20%. I go, wow. He didn't say like 1% or 2. He goes, 10, 20%. I'm like, that's a lot of percents that they could just take over. Holy cow, And if you look at, like I said a moment ago, the implementation of it, the degree is astronomical. So could they take over? Yeah, they could, sure. But, in the meantime, it's still you, it's still us, the humans. We still have the balls, so we got to do the best with it.
Well, we see the appetite in that type of automation. I mean, look at the explosion and excitement around OpenClaw. That took off like I've never seen in recent times, and people blindly handing their credentials and everything over to a automated system was really kind of shocking to me. The security vulnerabilities alone made me pause.
Right. Well, that's what I have said, for the last few years, is that AI is still, it really can't really do much of anything. It's not really doing anything yet. Will it get to the point where it does stuff? Undoubtedly. There's no question. And as you said, with OpenClaw, with these agentic AIs, it's doing stuff, but to me, not anything terribly useful. Read my emails. I can read my emails in 10, 15 minutes a day. You're not helping. That doesn't do it. Now, I'm sure for some people it's a huge thing, but for me, it's no big deal. So again, I'll reiterate the same thing. You're the human. You've got to make those decisions. But there are things that certainly in the near term, AI will not be able to do that only humans can do. Now, will that always be? Well, nobody knows. Nobody knows what's going to happen 5, 10 years from now. Everybody thought we'd be in flying cars by now. Where are those? We don't have those yet. So, we can only deal with what we can see, to the horizon. And after that, who knows? But still, the point is, keep your power. Don't give your power away. And as you just said, don't be so quick to give your credentials away to somebody or to something like that.
Well, this is always such a pleasure to talk to you. And I'm just going to point everybody to your website again. It is noahstjohn.com. You can find a number of resources there. Are you going to be speaking anywhere in the near future?
Well, I actually just did a TEDx talk, my first TEDx talk. So I just got off the stage. That was down in Florida. So That will be on my YouTube channel, hopefully in the next week or so. But also, I just want to mention something really quickly we didn't get a chance to talk about. When you go to noahstjohn.com, you'll see there's a button there that says Get the Diagnostic. So, what I help people with is breaking through their revenue ceiling. So it's called a revenue ceiling diagnostic. That's the name of it. So basically, what I do is I help entrepreneurs, real estate investors, business owners, but also athletes, celebrities, team owners to understand where the hidden friction is that's holding them back. So what I want to leave people with today, and I know we only have a couple minutes left, is that every business problem you're facing right now is a friction problem. Every problem you're facing is a friction problem. Now, it could be marketing friction, sales friction, human friction, AI friction. It could be friction in lots of different places. The problem is you probably don't know where that friction is. So every business problem you're facing is a friction problem. That's why you need a zero friction solution. That's why people call me the zero friction CEO. So the point is, get that diagnostic. It's free right on noahstjohn.com. Just click that button that's right there, and I will show you where that friction is. Right now, again, you may not be aware of it. You're probably not aware of it. Most entrepreneurs don't wake up in the morning and go, gee, I really have a friction problem. No, you think, no, I've got a money problem. Well, guess what? That's caused by friction. Right? So what we're doing is we're eliminating the causes of your money problem or your HR problem or whatever those problems are. They're all caused by hidden friction. So again, I just wanted to point that out. Make sure you get that diagnostic, because that way we can really understand where the friction is. And then, of course, give you a plan of action to remove that friction and scale up.
I had another guest on recently who said whatever you're avoiding is typically what's holding you back. Do you find that that's true?
Not necessarily. No, I don't. Most entrepreneurs know what the problem is, but the problem is they're looking at symptoms. Again, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough customers. I don't have enough clients. That's a symptom. All of those are symptoms. So you're probably aware of it. So no, I don't agree with that. You're not aware of it or you're hiding from it. It's driving you nuts. You're waking up at 3 a.m. going, what the heck? Money, clients, customers, HR, whatever. That's your symptom. So, but the issue, the real cause is always friction. It's always friction. It's like you're driving down the road of life with one foot on the brake. If you're driving down the road of life with one foot on the brake, you can step on the gas as hard as you want. You're still holding yourself back. So that's why, that's one of the reasons why my clients have added $3 billion, like those stories I told earlier about, Bill and, Brian, my clients, and I mean, hundreds and hundreds of others. Okay. So the point is, it's the friction that's the real problem, not the symptom. We got to fix the cause, and then the symptom goes away and we scale you to the moon.
And is most of this friction kind of in everybody's head?
Well, there's inner friction and outer friction. See, I call it inner game and outer game. So 90% of hidden friction is inner game, right? Like with Brian, with Bill, with Adam, all of the people like, Steve. Another example is I helped him scale his business 800% in 12 weeks. Hello, most people would be thrilled with a 10, 15%. Try 800%. But this is common for me. This is common, and you can watch the videos for yourself. So when we get rid of that inner friction, yes, that the outer friction is like 10%. Inner friction, in my experience, 90%. So yes, I always start with the inner game, the inner friction. You release that and boom, we can scale up very, 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 very quickly.
Well, we've been talking about affirmations, and you're just confirming or affirming the concept that I've had, is that one of the biggest returns on investment is making it in yourself. Yes. And getting through some of this and yes. Figuring some of this out. I just wish more people would realize that even before they tackle any kind of bigger project. And
yeah. It's like pouring the foundation of your house, right? If you are trying to build a house without a foundation, good luck, right? So the inner game is the foundation. That's why, another reason I love working with real estate investors, they understand, these types of realities, these illustrations that I use, right? So people are trying to build on sand, and that's why it tends to fall down, right? That's why they get stuck. So we have to build the foundation. That's always going to be your inner game, right? So we start there. That's one of the main reasons I've helped my clients add $3 billion. It's from the inner game. So we start with the inner and then go to the outer. Remember, you've probably already spent tons of time, money, and effort on the outer. Not wrong. It's not that you don't need it. It's just you're looking at the 10%. Imagine you have 90 guys fighting 10 guys. Who do you think is going to win? The 90 guys are going to win. So that's what's happening right now. So we want the 90 guys, the 90 people in your head working for you instead of against you.
Well, sir, this has been fantastic. If you're ready, we'll jump into the rapid fire, unless you have anything else we should have tried to hit on.
No, fire away. Let's go. Let's do it.
What lie do entrepreneurs often tell themselves?
I can't do it because ... right? I want to make more money, but I don't have the time. I want to grow my business, but I can't afford it, right? I can't do it because. That's a lie. That's what I call your head trash. You're driving down the road with one foot on the brake. Take out the trash. Boom, we can scale you to the moon.
If you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Trust yourself more. Don't listen to all those gurus, with all the social media and all this crap. I paid them a ton of money only to find out there's no there. And they can't teach their way out of a paper bag. So I would have trusted myself more, number one, but also done more of my homework, like when you go to my website. That's why it's not talking about me. It's talking about my clients, about the case studies, because that's how you know that it's system-driven success and not personality-driven.
Do you have a book recommendation, or what are you reading right now?
Well, of course, not counting my 26 books, but the book that got me into this business, the one that inspired me the most, was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And I was very fortunate to get a personal endorsement from Dr. Covey before he sadly passed away several years ago. And that was one of the highlights of my career. When I received that testimonial endorsement from Dr. Covey, I literally cried because he was my inspiration for getting in this business. And for him to give me that testimonial, that endorsement, was like a full circle moment that meant so much.
And finally, what single process or tool have you implemented that has had the biggest time-saving impact?
Boy, gosh. Well, Affirmations certainly is one of them. Affirmations is one of the 11 power habits. So I teach the power habit system, the power habits of unconsciously successful people. So, that's the entire system that has helped my clients add all that money, save time and really save relationships and lose weight and just a whole bunch of other things. But really, it's about understanding what it is that you want, being very clear on that, and then understanding what are the lies you're telling yourself about why you can't do it. Stop lying to yourself, and then, get the help you need. Go to our website, watch my YouTube videos, get coaching with me, bring me in to speak, whatever it is. But that's one of the things that is so powerful about this work that I love. It's so fascinating because it gets to the core of the issue. And then that way you can stop telling yourself these lies, stop holding yourself back, and really live the life you've always wanted.
Well, it's, as always, what a pleasure. Really great to have you again, and you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
NoahSt.John.com. Clickable link in the show notes. Everybody check out the new book, I Ask Better Questions. I really appreciate it again. I hope to see you again real soon.
Sounds great. See you soon.